Today, June 30th, 2025, I started drafting the Solar Queen. I started working on the project that I've wanted to work on since I finished Aurora and Luna, since I finished the first draft of Aurora and Luna in the spring of 2018. Ever since I finished that first draft of my first book, I have been wanting to write its sequel, The Solar Queen. I have known what this book is going to be about, more or less, this whole time. All of these last 7 years, I've known what the story is going to be, at least in a broad sense. And it's been sitting in my head, percolating, and at times driving me absolutely insane, because I'm not gonna lie, this won't spoil much, but Aurora and Luna, the first book in the Sun and Moon saga, it does end on a bit of a cliffhanger. It ends with a new problem. And the Solar Queen is where that problem is going to be faced. I left Aurora, my protagonist, in not the best situation. And ever since I finished typing that final word of that first draft, that very, very early, very, very rough draft of Aurora and Luna in 2018, I have wanted to start writing its sequel. I've wanted to continue the story, but if you're familiar with me and my work and my story, you will know that I had to take Aurora and Luna through at least 10 rounds of revision and editing, because it was my first novel, and while the idea, I believe, was a good one, there was a lot that I had to learn, both in the ways of storytelling and in the ways of writing, because most of the time your first book is just not very good, or at least there's a lot that could be improved, right? Makes sense. And I had to take Aurora and Luna through so many rounds of revision and editing. I guess I technically started the project in 2015. I didn't really get to seriously drafting it until 2017. And then I finished the first draft in 2018. And then I spent 2018 and 2019 and 2020 doing developmental edits, revisions, rewriting it, changing the story in various ways, making the story something that I was proud of. And then in 2021 and 2022 and 2023 and 2024, I took the book through lots of line and copy edits, making the writing something that I can be proud of. So it was like a 10-year process, 2 years of brainstorming and daydreaming, and then a very intense drafting period, and then lots of revision, years of revision. And this whole time, what I started writing today is what I have wanted to be working on, and I haven't been able to, because I felt that it was not right to continue drafting the story if I couldn't say that I had truly finished the first book. There were times when I would start drafting it. I think I started drafting it about 3 different times, but ultimately it always pulled me away from doing the work that I needed to do on Aurora and Luna. I am so glad I waited to write this book, to start writing this book. I am so glad that I waited, because in these last 7 years, I have become a much better writer than I was in 2018. And this book is going to be a better book than it would have been if I had written it even a year ago. There's some key differences because I've grown as a writer and I've also grown as a person. And yeah, there's some fundamental differences. Though a lot of the story is the same, there are some fundamental differences in how I'm writing this book. The characters are going to be more round. They're going to be more dynamic. Even though at times waiting to get started on this project was like torture. Because I'm not even joking, like when I'm at my day job, like these characters are in my head. They're telling me their stories, they're telling me their secrets, they're begging me to tell their stories. I am daydreaming, I am in New Camelot, my fantasy world. I am thinking about the Sun and Moon Saga. So waiting was hard. And today is actually a very, very special day for me. Finally getting started on this project after 7 years of waiting. This morning I got up early. It's my day off. It's my Saturday. I got up early and I drafted about 1,500 words, and I just sat down just now and I drafted about another 600 words. I'm currently sitting at 2,118 words, and that would be like a really good writing day for me most days, but I think I'm gonna keep going. I am working from an outline. That is something that I did not do with Aurora and Luna, which is a huge part of why it did take 10 years. At least for me, I think I need somewhat of an outline, otherwise it's way too easy to write myself into plot holes and corners and problems. So I think the outline's going to be really good because it's going to help me stay on track. I am just putting a strike through each point as I finish writing it. There is a prologue for the Solar Queen, just like there was a prologue for Aurora and Luna. This prologue is from the perspective of Emperor Sola in the beginning, and then it shifts to Prince Daniel's perspective. And while I have written from Sola's perspective before, because the first part of the prologue in Aurora and Luna was from his perspective, I have never written from Daniel's perspective. Sola's perspective, I wouldn't say it comes naturally to me because he is an evil character. For lack of better words, he's the bad guy, the evil ruler. So it's not that it comes naturally to me, but that prologue that I wrote for Aurora and Luna, it came in this very sudden burst of inspiration. I actually didn't write that prologue when I drafted Aurora and Luna. I drafted Aurora and Luna solely from Aurora's perspective. And then I used to do art modeling, which is basically I used to sit naked, perfectly still for like hours at a time, and people would draw me. I know that sounds very fun and glamorous, but it's actually very hard on the body. But as a writer, I kind of loved it because it allowed me to just think and get paid to think. And in one of these art modeling sessions, the prologue for Aurora and Luna just basically came to me in this download. I was still revising it at the time, and I remember going home and immediately writing it because I just knew that had to be how the book started. And I don't know why that came to me then, but it did. And it came very naturally. So it's not that writing from Emperor Sola's perspective is natural, or like it's not that I feel particularly close to him, but I guess it is natural in the sense that I do feel like I know what goes through his head. Again, not because I relate, but I just feel like I have a good glimpse into what goes on inside his mind. Daniel's perspective, it's a little less natural, particularly because he's such a vain, arrogant character, and writing from his perspective, The challenge is humanizing him while still maintaining the character that I established in the first book. Because if I'm writing from this vain, arrogant perspective, the reader is probably not going to like that very much. But if I am humanizing him too much and making him too relatable, it might not seem like it lines up enough with how Aurora sees him in the first book. So his perspective is a little more challenging. The words are coming a little more slowly. I have 3 different scenes that need to play out in this prologue. I've already written 2 of them. This 3rd scene, I want to write it today. I want to get the prologue done, because once the prologue is done, I will be out of Daniel's perspective, at least for a long, long time, and I will be into Aurora's perspective, which I greatly prefer. And there'll also be other perspectives as well in this book. I will be writing from the perspective of Zale, the rebel warlock, and I will be writing from the perspective of Aiden Leo, the noble mage, and also Daisy, the high elf, and Queen Sky, ruler of the fairy kingdom. So this book is where it becomes truly multi-POV, because, as I said, the first book was just Aurora. It was just her perspective, aside from the prologue, which was from the perspective of Sola, Zelina, and a 3rd character who I will not name because it's kind of a mystery. Whereas this book, it's going to become multi-POV. So that's going to present its own challenges. Because I'm writing from an outline and I have my main plot points outlined, because I know I tend to underwrite my first draft, and I always add in more things in my revision, and sometimes even in my line editing. I'll add in things like description and more emotional reflection in those edits if I feel like what I drafted is lacking in those kinds of ways. I'll add them in later, or I'll change things, add scenes. Sometimes I take away scenes. And I also take out a lot of words when I line edit, but I would say generally my manuscripts get bigger when I'm revising. They might get a bit shorter when I'm line editing. I think that's usually the case, but my manuscripts get bigger when I'm revising. So because I know that about myself, because I've written not just Aurora and Luna, but I've also written 4 other books, not including this book, and I've written tons of short stories and essays. So I kind of know my process. Of course, I'm always learning, and every project is different, but because I know I'm an underwriter on my first draft, and my books pretty much always get longer as I'm revising them, and because I know that I don't want this book to be any longer than 300,000 words, basically I'm wanting it to be anywhere between 200,000 words and 300,000 words. My first book, Aurora and Luna, is, I believe, 175,000 words. So I'm expecting this one to be a little bit longer, and I don't know if it will be closer to 200,000 or 300,000. But because I know that it could stretch up to 300,000, I'm aiming for my draft to be about 200,000 or less. So because I know that, and because I know more or less, because I know my plot points, obviously some things might change. It's not like a rigid outline. I counted how many main plot points I have. I have 54 plot points. I want the first draft to be no longer than 200,000 words, so I still have room to add more words in revision if I feel that's best for the story. So I did the math, and I divided 200,000 by, what's the number again? 54. And then that leaves me, on average, 3,000 to 4,000 words per major plot point. Of course, some plot points, like the 2 that I wrote this morning, are going to take much less words than that, because I got through 2 major plot points in 2,000 words. And then there's going to be some plot points that probably take more because there's more build-up. But that's kind of my guideline, because that creates a bit of a structure for me to play inside. My goal is to finish the first draft of this book by this time next year. I'll talk more about this later on in the vlog. But my goal is to just finish the first draft, not the final book, the first draft by this time next year. And so I want to hit 50K by the fall equinox, because that'll be a seasonal quarter from now. But I also want to get through a quarter of the plot points or more by now, because it's really easy to hit lots and lots of words without accomplishing a lot. It would be really easy to hit 50K but have a lot of navel gazing and a lot of just things not really actually happening or progressing the plot forward, filler, things that'll be edited out later because they don't need to be there. So I'm trying to be more economic with my words than I was when I was drafting Aurora and Luna. Because with Aurora and Luna, a lot of things got cut because I was just writing, just enjoying it. Which is great. That's how you should write any book, really, but especially your first book. But now I've written 5 books. I've written tons of short stories and tons of essays, and I'm starting to understand that, like, it would be better to draft less words, but work through more plot points than draft the same or more words but not actually move the story along as much. So that's why I kind of have this, would you call it a system? It's a system. I have this system set up for myself where it's like each plot point should be, 3,000 to 4,000 words at most. Of course, some will be longer, some will be much shorter. But it's just a good guideline to show that when you've hit this word count, you should be at this point in the plot or further along. I think this is going to really, really help, and it's really going to shorten the revision process. Of course, I still will be revising because I love revising, and I do a lot of my best creative work when I'm actually revising the story. Because when I'm drafting, I'm really just sketching it out, and when I'm revising, that's like when I'm going in there with my fine tip Sharpie and really defining those lines, to use a drawing analogy. Yeah, I'm feeling really good about this project so far. I'm feeling really good about the words that I have written, and I am really excited but a little bit intimidated to write this next scene because, oh man, it is a scene that I have been scheming and fantasizing about for like 7 years, and I think this scene will be the hardest in the prologue to get right. And I may not get it right on this draft, but that's okay because that's what revision is for. I love this mug, by the way. I picked it up at this local honey farm on the island that I live on. And oh man, it's so cozy. I love the colors. I love the shape, the feeling of it in my hands. It's handmade by a local artisan. And it was a little expensive. And I already had plenty of mugs, but there's just something so nice about sipping tea from a handmade mug. Somebody crafted this with love, and honestly, I think it makes the tea taste better. So I am taking a little break to do something in my kitchen. This is often how I break up my writing. I'll pause to make a cup of tea or do some meal prep, or in this case, I'm gonna do some baking. Well, not really baking. I've already done the baking. I made these butterscotch squares, also known as blondies, like brownies but without the cocoa powder. They're very, very good. I actually already made a batch earlier this week because it was just a really rainy day and it put me in that fall cozy mood, and I decided I'm gonna bake something when I get home, and I baked butterscotch squares, and they were really good. I put walnuts and cinnamon in the first batch, but then I got this kind of crazy idea because something about the summertime, I just always want to have s'mores, but I'm not really going to be at a campfire anytime soon, because even if I was going camping, there's probably a fire ban at this point where I live, that's good. And yeah, I probably won't be roasting marshmallows over a fire anytime soon. So, I thought, crazy idea, what if I made butterscotch squares again, but this time I melted chocolate and then like let it set over top of the square, and then while it was setting, put little mini marshmallows in it. These are the mini marshmallows that I got. They are vegan marshmallows, and I've never tried them. I've never actually had vegan marshmallows because I've never seen these in the grocery store that I go to until recently. So I'm gonna give these a try and see if they're any good. They feel, I'm just feeling them through the bag, they feel like real marshmallows. I imagine they'll be just as good, just more expensive. This is the tea I was drinking while I was writing, by the way. I specifically got this tea for drinking while writing The Solar Queen. I bought it in the earlier springtime when I went to that honey farm. It's called Rose Queen, and it's a green tea with rose petals and rose essential oil, and it tastes amazing. But the reason why I got it for drafting The Solar Queen, if you have read all of Aurora and Luna, you'll know. That's all I'll say about that, but it's a very good tea. It's a very, very good tea. I just wanted to show you that. Okay, so I'm going to melt this chocolate, and as I do, I want to have a chat with you about something that I've been pondering over these last few months. And I've jotted down a lot of notes on my phone because I've got a lot of thoughts and I don't want to lose track of them. For those of you who don't know, this is how you melt chocolate. That's not enough water. This is how you melt chocolate. You take a big pot and you put water in it. Okay, that's probably enough water. And then you bring it to a boil. And then you take a smaller pot and put that on top and put the chocolate chips or the chocolate in there. And it melts in this pot. That is how you melt chocolate for baking and whatnot. I love to bake, by the way. If you're new to this channel, I love to bake. It's one of my favorite pastimes and just ways to de-stress. I love to cook as well. I am very passionate about making tasty, delicious food and making tasty, delicious vegan baked goods and desserts. It's just one of my favorite things. Books, baking, rainy days inside. That's kind of my whole vibe. If that's your vibe too, then press subscribe. You'll probably enjoy this channel. Okay, so this is what I want to talk about. This is where it's going to get kind of deep and philosophical. Okay, so today I'm actually doing 3 different writing sessions minimum. I did one this morning that was like 2 hours long. I did one just now that was like an hour long, and then I'm going to do another one after this, maybe even a 4th, or maybe just one really long one. I'm going to get that prologue drafted by the end of today, god damn it. Part of the reason why part of the reason why I'm so eager to do all this writing today is simply because I've been waiting so long to draft this book that I'm just like, yes, let's go. So maybe I'll get it drafted sooner than I'm aiming for. We'll talk more about my timeline and my goals later on. But first, there's another reason why I feel so equipped and ready to do so much writing today, and it's because for the first time in maybe even years, I feel genuinely rested. It's kind of insane because I actually haven't had like a vacation from my day job in coming up to a year. So it's not that I just had a week off of my day job or something like that. It's that I actually just let myself rest for like this last month. I have been resting and it feels so good. I've still been writing, I've still been drawing, I've still been playing music, still been doing things, but I've started going at a much slower pace. The first half of this year, I really burnt myself out. I really burnt myself out. It happened gradually though, so I didn't really realize it was happening until it was kind of too late. At the beginning of the year, 6 months ago, around Yule, I set huge goals for myself for the year. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself in a lot of different ways, and I'm the kind of person where when I set a goal, I really do my best to achieve that goal. I don't mess around with my goals. I really do pursue them. I don't just set them and then like forget about them. I set them and then I break them down into steps, and I break those steps down into smaller steps and down into habits and routines and rituals, and I check in with my goals. Like, I'm usually on it, and that's good. I haven't always been this way. This is something I really learned as I drafted and revised and edited and finished Aurora and Luna. These are skills that I had to learn. I was not always this way. Trust me. Okay, I'm just gonna grab my phone because I don't want to go on some random tangent. At the beginning of this year, I was trying to publish my book, release Ghost of a Girl's album, post on social media every single day, and do my deep work, which is my actual writing, the songwriting, drawing, that kind of stuff. The stuff that usually isn't urgent, but you actually really need to do as an artist because it's what actually creates the art. And this is on top of working 30 hours a week, which I know is not a lot of hours, but it is 4 days a week that I spend doing that, and I usually come home pretty tired. So doing all of that and everything else that, you know, survival requires, like eating and sleeping and exercising and all that kind of stuff, it just became too much. Particularly what was sort of too much was the posting on social media every day. It was really hard. It was really hard on my mind, body, and soul after a while, honestly. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I did it. See, I saw posting every day on social media as the bridge that would close the gap between where I was then and where I want to be. And in the beginning, I was actually pretty excited about that goal because social media content creation was something that I always had kind of procrastinated, and I had always done a lot of starting and stopping and deleting everything and then ignoring it, procrastinating it, and then starting and then deleting, and it was just this toxic cycle I was in. So I think it was good that I got out of that cycle and that I kind of got over my fear of posting. And in the beginning, I was pretty excited and it was pretty easy to post. But after about like 3 months or so of posting, it just got to be a bit too much. And in my heart and soul, I knew that it was a bit too much and that the goal was misaligned. But people in my life, loved ones, they were doing this with the best of intentions. They were encouraging me to keep going, so I kept going. But it only got more and more burnt out, and I was seeing very little payoff for the amount of effort that I was putting into my Instagram and my TikTok and everything like that. And time was passing, but I wasn't creating the things that I really wanted to be creating because I was so busy creating all this short form content and even just like mentally busy. Like I was starting to think more about the kinds of reels I could make and the kinds of captions I could write than it was about the kinds of stories I could write, the kinds of drawings I could do, and that was really starting to, it was not good. It was not good. Water's not boiled yet. I was also organizing a book release party, which was so fun, by the way. No regrets doing it. It was so much fun. I'm so grateful to everyone who came out. It was so much fun to celebrate the release of the Near Impossible Quest, which is the final installment in Aurora and Luna. If you don't know, I released my first book, Aurora and Luna, in 3 installments because it's a long book and I wanted to break it down so that it was a little more accessible and friendly and welcoming for new readers. But I digress. The party was a lot to put together. The day of the party, I spent the entire day cooking and preparing, and I did a lot of like planning and preparing before the party. And also there was just like the emotional buildup of the party, like knowing I was gonna have so many people all in the same space, all gathered there for me, and I had to be organized and like have everything run smoothly. Like it was just a lot. I'm an introverted person. This water is now boiling. So I'm gonna grab my chocolate chips. Yeah, it was just a lot. How many chocolate chips do I want to put in? I don't want to do too many. I feel like half a cup will be the right amount. My intuition tells me. I almost dropped this. My intuition tells me that half a cup is the right amount. I can't not eat a few chocolate chips. It's just the child in me. Can't not eat a few when I'm baking. So the party went well. It was awesome. It was so much fun. I'm so grateful to everyone who came out and to everyone who bought books. And it was just really nice to celebrate and just take a moment to like acknowledge what I had created, what I had accomplished. Actually, I don't think that's gonna be enough chocolate to cover the whole thing. I'm putting another half cup in there. And I'm eating another couple chocolate chips because I am a child in an adult's body. After the party was done, I expected myself to jump right into my next project, to jump right into my deep work. But after the party was done, I was exhausted. And I was surprised by how exhausted I was, but when I thought about it, it made total sense. Because I'm an introvert. I'm honestly a very introverted person. Yes, I can talk a lot. Yes, I can be very friendly at times, but I am, in all honesty, an introvert through and through. After that big party and after all the work I had done the first half of the year, my soul, my mind, my body, it needed rest. So I woke up on the first Monday, my Saturday, after the party. I was just exhausted and I didn't really want to do anything other than read and play video games and go to the coffee shop and sip tasty drinks. That was basically all I wanted to do. And I went against my workaholic impulses and I gave myself that luxury. I realized that it actually wasn't a luxury to me to rest. I still did my deep work in little bursts here and there, but I spent a lot of time this last month or so just reading, a lot of reading, tons of reading. And that has really been the best way for me to genuinely rest. And I've also done a lot of journaling too, which again is another way that I rest and just like introspect and just reconnect with myself. I have to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle of the world to like feel creative and feel like myself. It's just who I am. It's just who I am, honestly. And I accept myself for who I am. I know I need a lot of rest, and I know I can't do as many things as maybe I would always like to do. But I can do a few things really, really, really well. So I want to focus more on the things that I really care about doing. Oh yeah, these taste just like regular marshmallows. I'm just gonna pop them right into the chocolate, and hopefully they melt a bit, but like not a ton. We're in a really weird culture that values productivity way too much and just demands it way too frequently. This is why I felt like I had to post on social media every day to be a real author, was because I felt like that's just something I have to do. It's like that was an idea that I just basically adopted, and it's not even my idea. It's not even what I as a creative person want to be doing, and in fact I actually don't need to do it. I don't even need to have an Instagram at all to be a real author. I can have one if I want to. Maybe it's good to have one in some ways, has certain perks, certain positive consequences, but it also has lots of negative consequences too, and it's just not something I need to be doing. And I basically just let that go. I let that go. I realized if I don't want to make short form content and like spend so much time making these stupid little things that like have the shelf life of a banana, to quote one of my favorite YouTubers, then I don't have to. There's no need for that. It's a waste of my time. Those hours, yes, it does literally take hours to make short form content. Those hours can be spent writing, they can be spent working on my website, making YouTube videos, they can be spent drawing, making music, all things I genuinely actually love doing. I'm not making this vlog because I hope you're gonna buy my books. I mean, obviously, I want you to buy my books. I'm making it because I actually love vlogging. I love documenting my creative process. I love video editing. I just love vlogging. I love YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube, probably too much YouTube. And I just really enjoy YouTube. And that's why I actually want to focus more on YouTube and less on short form content. Of course, I'm still gonna make short form content sometimes. It can be a useful marketing tool for sure, but YouTube is where I want to be as a content creator. YouTube, my website, my podcast, but ultimately, really, what I want to spend my time creating is my art, and I want to document the creation of my art. And that's why I am going to be documenting my writing process, the entire thing, the drafting, the revising, the editing for The Solar Queen. I'm going to be taking you through that process through a series of vlogs. I'm so excited. Here is my butterscotch squares with chocolate and marshmallows. I'm going to call these s'mores, or I don't know what I'll call them, but something like s'mores. Maybe I'll do like a play on the word s'mores. Baked s'mores, winter s'mores, I don't know. If you have any ideas, leave it in the comments below, but I have no idea how these will be. I think they'll be good. I am wondering, you know what I might do? Because the marshmallows aren't melting that much. I think I'm gonna put them under the broiler for like 30 seconds. I think that will be good. The marshmallows will get like a little toasty. Okay, here they are out of the oven. The marshmallows are a nice golden brown. I think these are gonna be good. I'm gonna let everything set, and I look forward to trying one later tonight for dessert after dinner. For now, I will not be snacking on desserts, but making myself a nice cup of herbal tea and getting back into the Solar Queen. It's gonna be great. I'm like, it's so good. Not the book, I just mean like being able to, well, I mean, I hope the book is good, but I just mean that like being able to work on this project. Literally, I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but this morning, tears literally came down my face as I started setting up the document and writing those first few words. Tears literally came down my face. Now, what kind of tea do I want? That is the question. I think I'm gonna go for a nice peppermint to keep me alert. But I don't want to have caffeine at this hour. I'm more conscious of my caffeine intake because I know all too well that it's a very addictive substance and I can easily overdo it. So I had my black tea this morning, had my green tea just now, and now I will have a nice peppermint tea, herbal tea for the rest of the day. But I am going to get into my writing, charge up my camera because the battery is dying, and after I have written the prologue, I will talk to you about how that went and also about my plan for writing the Solar Queen, drafting it, revising it, editing it, and eventually publishing it. I finished drafting the prologue to the Solar Queen, which I am pretty happy with. I think it went pretty well. I mean, I have 25 comments throughout, things I'll need to fix or improve upon during revision and editing, but all in all, I am pretty happy with this. My only fear is that it's too long. It's not really too long to be a chapter, but it's not going to be a chapter, it's going to be a prologue, and I do think it would be better if the prologue was very, very short. I think that's one of the strengths of Aurora and Luna, is that it has a very short prologue. But I don't know. I mean, maybe in revision there's things I'll cut out, although I'm not sure what. Because I really wrote, at least what I right now feel are just the essentials. So maybe in line editing I'll take out some of the unnecessary words. I don't know, we'll see. But today I wrote 3,931 words, which is a lot. That's basically my word count goal for the entire week, actually. Which isn't to say that I won't be writing more this week. I absolutely will be, because why not get ahead of my goal? And maybe I will finish the drafting much sooner than anticipated. I don't know. But that's what I want to talk about now, is I want to just talk about my plan for the Solar Queen. So Aurora and Luna took me 10 years. I don't want the Solar Queen to take me 10 years, and there's really no reason why it would take me 10 years, because I've learned a lot through writing, revising, editing, and publishing the Solar Queen. And above all, I've learned my process, which isn't to say that it doesn't change with time, and it isn't to say that it doesn't sort of vary from project to project, but I more or less know like what it takes to finish a book for me. And because I know my process, I know what amount of time is probably going to be comfortable, where I'll be able to work at a comfortable, natural pace, but at the same time, enough of a push to keep me motivated and keep me working. So I'm giving myself 3 years. I'm giving myself 3 years to draft, revise, and edit and publish the Solar Queen. Of course, I might get it done sooner, that would be amazing. But I think 3 years is a good sort of guideline for this project, because it's probably going to be 6 months to a year for drafting it. I can draft things very, very quickly, and I know I could draft it in 6 months, but I don't know if that would be the best way, because as I've said, I think both in this video and in other writing vlogs, I'm really trying to slow down when I'm writing and write more intentionally so that I don't have to do as much revision, and I'm trying to write more economically so I don't just write a whole bunch of words that have to get deleted. I'd rather give myself a year for drafting, because it means that I can take things nice and slow. It means that if I wake up next Monday, next Saturday, my Saturday, and I have no idea how to draft whatever it is I'm drafting, then I can take the day off of writing, or I can at least take the day off of this project and go work on one of my short stories or go work on some illustrations, and still know that as long as I'm working on this project at least a few times a week, I will be on track with my goal. And for me, because this plot is so much more complex than the first book, because everything is deeper and more complex, and there's more points of view and more timelines that have to line up and more world building and everything like that, I would rather kind of give myself that luxury of being able to take the day off of this project or take the day off of writing generally, because for me, I actually get a lot done when I don't look like I'm getting a lot done, if that makes sense. This kind of ties in with what I was saying when I was doing the baking in the kitchen. Our world is so obsessed with productivity, and I have definitely fallen into this cult of productivity as well, just in the sense that, like, I think I have to be finishing projects all the time, releasing projects all the time. I pursue a lot more, like, what I call bullshit goals, and basically by that I mean, like, posting every day short form content. Why was I doing that? I mean, I was doing that because I thought it would help me sell books and gain the audience that I crave, but it pulled me so far away from not just my deep work. I mean, I was still doing my deep work, but it pulled me so far away from the lifestyle that I like to live, which is like a very slow-paced, simple, earthy lifestyle. Like, I like the simple things in life, and I like to take my time and not be rushed and not have a to-do list a mile long full of bullshit tasks and bullshit work. And where was I going with this? Oh, right. I think for me, it's more valuable to put out less creative work, but have the creative work I put out be things that I am genuinely really, really proud of, and not just things that I've just kind of scraped together. And with this series in particular, it really needs time. Like, I say that, like, sometimes when I seem the laziest, I'm my most productive. Like this last month, I spent most of my days off just reading, going outside with my boyfriend, reading, going for a hike with my boyfriend, reading. And I probably looked so lazy on the surface, but what was really happening deep down is I was being reacquainted with my love for my craft and my love for my genre and my reasons for writing and my passion and my inspiration. And I came out of that month like so ready to write. Like, I wrote almost 4,000 words today. I basically wrote 4,000 words today. If I had been like trying to like hustle this whole last month, this wouldn't have happened. The words wouldn't have flowed so easily. I wouldn't have been as motivated to write. I would have been tired and drained. So all this is to say that I would rather I mean, I don't know if this is actually what my rate of productivity will be, but I would rather put out 1 or 2 high quality short stories every year rather than trying to write like a blog post every week. And I would rather take a year to draft this book than rush it and do it in 6 months if it means the draft is going to be better. That said, I may get it done in 6 months. We'll see. We will see how it all goes. So I'm budgeting a year for drafting. By midsummer next year, I want to have this thing drafted, which means 200,000 words, roughly. Could be a little bit less than that, I suppose. And it means all the plot points have been written out. Or like most of the plot points. I say most just because I am this weird writer that like often doesn't write their ending until their developmental edit or sometimes even their line edit. I don't know why, but I find that usually right before the ending, I actually just say the draft is done because for some reason I feel like it's a lot easier to write a satisfying ending if if I've just read the draft and I know how it reads and I know the tone and the themes, and I just like, for me the ending comes a lot more easily that way if I write it in revision or in line editing. So a year for drafting and then a year for revision. Now this is where I wonder if I'll actually need more than a year. Like I might need less for drafting, less for editing, but more for revision. So this timeline is very flexible. We'll see how it all goes. But I'm budgeting myself a year for revision because revision is basically the same as writing, but you're rewriting what you've already written, basically. You're adding things in, you're taking things out, you're changing things that are fundamental to the story, rearranging things. It is probably the most mentally taxing of the three, at least for me, because you have to read through your story and you've got to make yourself a list of like all the things all the bugs you need to fix, and then you got to go through and take things out, rewrite things, add things in, rearrange things, change things, fix problems, fix the bugs. And I find it very mentally taxing. Whereas writing, it can also be mentally taxing if you're not feeling that inspired. But writing is a little more fun because it's more like you're discovering things, it's new. Revising, it can be very, very satisfying even though it is mentally taxing because it's like solving a puzzle that you've made for yourself. So I'll take a year for revising and then a year for line editing and copy editing. So probably like, I don't know, 6 to 9 months for a line edit and 3 to 6 months for a copy edit. I don't really know. The copy edit for Aurora and Luna took a really long time, but I also hadn't touched that manuscript for actually a couple of years because I was still writing during those couple of years, but I was writing other things. And as I was writing those other things, I was really learning how to write. So there was this big gap between where my writing had been in 2022 when I left my line edited copy of Aurora and Luna, when I had like finished the book. And then in 2024 when I returned to it and started to do the copy edit. And because there was such a gap, even though I was doing the copy edit, I was actually doing a lot of line edits as well, so that kind of slowed things down. But I also slowed down the process as well in the sense that I wasn't copy editing for the entire year that I was putting out the 3 installments in Aurora and Luna. I was writing other things in that time and creating other things in that time, and then I was doing copy edits as well. So if I had just done all the copy edits at once, I'm not sure how long that would have taken, but I know it took me quite a long time So I'm anticipating that it'll take a long time for the Solar Queen. We shall see. And then the other thing, of course, with the copy edits is once things are line edited, I send them to my partner and he does a copy edit and then he sends them back to me and then I do my copy edit and my proofread. So it's like a whole process. I'm going through it multiple times. I'm having someone else go through it. And who knows, maybe by the time I'm publishing the Solar Queen, which if everything goes according to plan should be in 2028. Crazy that that's kind of where I'm looking toward, because that feels so far off in the future, but it's really not if you really think about it. Maybe by that time I will have the financial freedom to hire a professional editor. So maybe it will be an even more involved process. Or maybe it'll take me less time because I'll kind of have my hands off a bit. I don't know. We shall see. But that is the tentative plan. A year for drafting, a year for revision, and a year for line and copy editing. And then I will publish either at the end of that third year or shortly after. Again, I'm just going to kind of see how it all goes. This is my timeline, but it's very flexible. It's very fluid. I really want to get out of this like hustling mindset, especially as I'm drafting this and revising this. I really want to go into my little deep work hermit mode. And actually I pulled tarot cards. So I pulled the Hermit twice. I pulled the Hermit for the season of summer. So these next 3 months I will be really working with the Hermit. That'll be a big theme. And actually I pulled it in reverse. And I think I pulled it in reverse because there was a huge part of me that was scared to sort of let the short form busyness go, because when you're doing that kind of busy short form content work, you feel so productive, you feel so on top of things, you feel so legitimate. But like really, like, are you? Like, maybe you are gaining an audience, and if you are and it's working for you, like, do it. For me, I wasn't really gaining much of an audience, and it was taking away from my true joy, my true love, which is the deep work of writing and creating. Not in the sense that I wasn't doing deep work, like I was still finding my time for deep work, but just in the sense that as I moved through day to day, I was more in this go, checking things off a to-do list mode, and I was thinking a lot about what am I going to post today, tomorrow, this week, next week, and I was sort of seeing my life through the lens of Instagram, through the lens of TikTok, whereas when I'm just being authentically me, I'm actually just thinking about my stories, and I'm thinking about my music and my illustrations and my spiritual practice and the books I'm reading and the movies I'm watching, and I'm a lot more like present, and it's a lot better for the art itself, but it's also just a lot more enjoyable of a life to live. As I said, I like to live a very simple, intentional, almost like rustic life. And things like YouTube and podcasting and having a website, they feel like they're totally different. I like working on my computer, but I hate working on my phone. The phone is a powerful tool in a lot of ways, but I hate just like being glued to my phone all day, constantly editing reels, constantly typing captions, constantly like brainstorming ideas for reels. Like, no. I want to be reading books. I want to be writing and outlining. Even when I'm on the go, I want to be like in my notes app on my phone and like jotting ideas down for the next scene that I'm working on. And it's just, it takes up so much mental space, and it's hard to separate yourself from it. At least for me, I have a very addictive personality, so it's hard to like post on social media and then just totally disengaged from it. And by the way, like as I said, like I'm not gonna be not using social media, but my main platform is gonna be my website, but also YouTube and my podcast. My podcast is where I post my short stories, which I also post here on YouTube, and they're also on my website. I want to focus on the places that I actually like to hang out in my spare time. I like to hang out on YouTube. I like to listen to podcasts. I like to read blogs. I like to visit people's websites. I don't really like scrolling Instagram. I don't scroll TikTok ever. I don't know. I guess I just thought that was the bridge over the gap between where I am and where I want to be. But it did not feel good to take that path. It was not really my authentic path. And I guess I'm just loosening the grip on what it is I want a little bit. Yeah, I'm just kind of letting go. I'm trusting that if I do my work and if I share it in ways that feel fun for me, keyword feel fun and authentic, I will get where I want to go. And I also trust that it's ultimately not really about getting where I want to go. Like, not to be cliche, but it is about the journey, not the destination. And I've kind of always ebbed and flowed between these two modes of like trying to get somewhere, but then also like stepping back and surrendering and enjoying the journey. And I'm always so much happier when I do the latter. And when I do the latter, a lot of the time things just work out serendipitously. That's where I'm at. And yeah, this was the first vlog in drafting the Solar Queen. Getting started with drafting the Solar Queen. I'm gonna keep filming vlogs as I go to keep you updated on where I'm at with the creative process. And I'm hoping to film some Lunar Coven exclusive vlogs as well. I have one really cool idea in mind for a vlog that I would not necessarily feel comfortable posting for all of YouTube, but would definitely feel comfortable posting to the Lunar Coven. And by the way, the Lunar Coven is Patreon and Substack. It's the same content on both. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon and Substack in the Lunar Coven. Your support means the world to me. It is so, so, so helpful. Thank you from the bottom of my sparkly, fantastical purple heart. It is very, very appreciated because it allows me to continue doing what I love to do. If you have not already, then please subscribe to my channel. I post writing vlogs and short stories and ambient soundscapes set in New Camelot and music and all kinds of fun, creative things. And going forward, I'm gonna be posting a lot more writing vlogs as I write the Solar Queen, and I'm gonna be posting a lot more ambient soundscapes as I continue to bring New Camelot to life through my illustrations. And yeah, this is where I'm gonna focus as far as content creation goes going forward. I am going to focus on YouTube because I like it the most, and I feel like I can actually just be myself here. And yeah, so subscribe. Links to buy my books are in the description, as always, as is a link to my newsletter, which is free and I never spam you. I actually don't really use my newsletter enough, but can only do so much in a day. But if you would like to start reading the Sun and Moon Saga today, definitely sign up for my newsletter, because when you do, the prologue and chapter 1 will automatically be sent to your inbox, as will my newsletter exclusive short story, Fairy Dust. Thanks again for watching. This was very fun to film. I really like having the camera here to chat to as I go about my creative work for the day. I will talk to you in the next writing vlog. Until next time, stay cozy.